So the first news is Parliament to focus on foreign fishermen enroachment. Foreign workers entry on February 15. From Kuala Lumpur, the issue of enroachment by foreign fishermen and efforts to speed up entry of foreign workers to solve workers shortage are among the focus of the Dewan Rakyat sitting on Wednesday, February 15th, this morning. Based on the paper available on the Parliament website, the issue of foreign fishermen enroachment will be raised by Datuk Ahmad Mazruk Syari, PN Pengkalan Chepau, in question to the Home Minister. Ahmad Mazruk wants to know about the government's efforts to overcome issues affecting income of local fishermen and enroachment on the country's sovereignty. Also listed in Lim Guang Eng's PH Bagan question to Human Resources Minister regarding the government's efforts to accelerate the entry of foreign workers, the expected time frame for the government to tackle foreign worker shortage and the relaxation provided to employers. Cik Muhammad Zulkifli Yusof of PN Besut wants to know whether the government intends to give one-off cash assistance to rubber tappers who are affected by year-round rainy days and factors that cause low rubber prices, through a question to the Rural and Regional Development Minister. Apart from that, Dr. Kelvin Yi Li Wen of PH Kuching will raise the issue of overcrowding in emergency department of hospitals across the country and the government plan to resolve it through the question of the Health Minister. The Parliament sitting today will also witness the House continue its debate on the motion of thanks to the Royal Address. The focus will be on the presentation of the first Quranic text printing bill, Amendment 2023. Dewan Rakyat will convene 29 days until March 30 from Bernama. So the next one, 3 hours ago, New Zealand declares emergency. World News, 15 February 2023. From Auckland, New Zealand declared a national state of emergency as Cyclone Gabrielle swept away roads, inundated homes and left more than 100,000 people without power. High winds and heavy rain lashed the country's populous North Island in what officials called unprecedented weather event. It's been a big night for New Zealanders. A lot of families are displaced, a lot of homes without power. And a lot of homes without power. Prime Minister Chris Hipkins told reporters in Auckland. There has been extensive damage across the country. God damn, what's with these sentences? This is the third time New Zealand has declared a state of emergency following 2019 Christchurch attacks and the COVID-19 pandemic. Daylight revealed the severity of the disasters: roads eaten away by landships and collapsed homes buried in mud, silt and slew of storm detritus. Falling trees smashed power lines and flood waters blocked several roads, leaving communities across the country now stranded. Local media reported some were forced to swim from their homes to safety. Others were waded through storm waters on foot. At about midnight, we got emergency text saying evacuate. We called Jane Scott, a resident of coastal community in Muriwai, who gathered a torch and a few essentials before seeking refuge in a local community center. It is a pitch black and pouring with rain, she told local channel TVNZ. It was very scary. Cyclone Gabrielle formed off the northeastern coast of Australia in the Coral Sea on February 8 before barreling across the South Pacific. It bore down on New Zealand's northern coast on Sunday, bringing gusts of 140 km per hour, spraying coastal communities with 20 centimeters of rain and 24 hours of 11-meter high waves. More than three-quarters of New Zealand's 5 million residents live in North Island, where the brunt of the storm is being felt. Hipkins said it was too early to say how many people have been evacuated from their homes here without power or cell phone coverage. That's the end of it. News. Job scams are surprisingly smart. 25 minutes ago. COVID-19. Lama tak dengar. So COVID-19 watch, 200 new cases bring total of 5,039,850 total cases. From Petaling Jaya, Malaysia recorded 200 new COVID-19 cases on Tuesday, February 14th, said the Health Ministry. According to the Ministry of KKM Now portal, 199 of new COVID-19 case infections in the country were local transmissions, while there was one imported case. This brings total number of COVID-19 infections in the country 5,039,850 cases since the pandemic began. A total of 1 death recorded on Tuesday with no cases of brought in death, bringing a total of 36,953. Oh, that's it. Now the next one, job scams are surprisingly smart. Here's how to not get burned by Ariane Chone. Oh, it's an article, not news. Last fall, Aaron Perkowitz applied for a job as a technical writer. The hirer asked him to compose the paid test article, and when he finished, requested his banking information to pay him. Perkowitz asked why so much information was needed. Couldn't they just mail a check? No response. The article took me 3 hours, he says, but I'm glad I didn't fall for the scam. The Perkowitz got off easy. Today's scam ads are often indiscernible from legitimate listings and can appear on reputable job sites like LinkedIn and Indeed, as well as in your inbox as phishing attacks. Other scammers attract money from applicants under the guise of background checks, security clearance, uniforms, or training. It is a lucrative line of crime. Of the 22,335 job scams reported on the Federal Trade Commissions on the third quarter 2022, median loss was $2,000. Employees usually have an easy time getting applicants' address, phone numbers, and even social security numbers, says Ben Michael, an attorney at Michael and Associates. Throw in a bank account or credit card number, ostensibly for direct deposit. That's everything you need to commit identity theft. It seems like job scams are surging. It's not your imagination. They've gone more doubled since late 2019. FTC data show right now jobs hungry population are being targeted. such as people laid off by tech companies, immigrants seeking jobs, especially visa requirements, and recent college grads. The boom in remote jobs allows scammers to advertise positions for all companies that don't necessarily exist. Jobs are really tempting, says Rahul Telang, professor of information systems at Carnegie Mellon University. People really want to believe what they are seeing. If they see a remote job with flexible hours, they typically tend to fall for that. Job hoaxes are getting harder to avoid. Just 2 years ago, reasonably savvy people could not spot most scams in common sense. Most were click and go crimes involving minimum interaction with to procure identity information and install malware. Today's scams are surprisingly elaborate, with fake company websites and phone or video interviews. We're seeing a willingness of cybercriminals to invest more time in ongoing relationship with the victim, says Steve Gorman, Chief Technology Officer at McAfee. It's more difficult for scammers to scale, but if they think they get a reasonable payout, they do it. They ask experts how to avoid becoming a victim. They say 10 minutes of due diligence is mandatory. Locate the company's website, find the street address on Google Maps, and then scan for articles and press releases that mention the company. Can you find actual employees and message them, or is it a well-known company? Call its officers and ask to speak with the person to do your interview. Beyond that, here's how to navigate severe crimes. The first is don't be fooled by individualized recruiting. Previously, a personalized in-depth recruitment letter meant safely, but today anyone with access to your LinkedIn profile can ask an AI tool like ChatGPT to create a recruitment letter that name checks your alma mater and employees. Scammers can now generate tailored attacks at scale, says Grotman. He suggests extreme caution in text-only conversation and look for unexpected deviations from the timeline. Typically, a company shouldn't ask for information beyond your name, phone, and address before formally hiring you and sending you a job offer letter. Tech downloads are a no-no. Unfortunately, video interviews are longer correlate with legitimacy. A common scam is to send online video link that enables criminals to access your valuable information on the computer. Or for the hire to say it's a remote position, but we need to do a scan on your equipment to make sure it meets your minimum requirements. Just say no. Any request to do something or any of your technologies should be a red flag, said Goldman. Let's do not pay for anything really, even if it seems like a plausible charge, such as an application fee, training program, or job placement service. Legitimate employers will not ask for any money upfront, says Darren Shafee, founder of software provider Resume Blaze, who frequently sees his customers fall prey to scams. If a position requires you to buy something, it is likely fraudulent. Shafii is also a fan of ignoring too good to be true jobs. Do not sound cynical, but chances are that you're not going to get a job that pays well for very little work. Asked a lot of questions about daily job tasks, Boston career coach Amy Reeves recently had a client who was hired for a professional marketing position with a on-the-job training. When he arrived, he was handed a sandwich board and asked to stand on the street. I've heard of similar stories, said Reeves. They show up on their first day in a suit and were asked to sell burner phones from a folding table or pass out new flavors of hummus at an intersection. Inquire about the specifics of day-to-day role, or inquire specific day-to-day role, Bloomberg. Then this is proper Malaysian news. Anwar heads to Turkey in gesture of solidarity. From Kuala Lumpur, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said his one-day visit to Turkey is a reflection of Malaysia's deep concern and solidarity with its people who have been affected in devastating earthquake. He said his work commitments He said to his work commitments, he was initially hesitant to visit the country, but he changed his mind after he received calls from the President uh, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. I believe that as friends, we should always be there to give our support, he told reporters after meeting senators of Parliament at Parliament lobby yesterday. Anwar is expected to return to Malaysia tonight and will go to Parliament tomorrow. Initially, I was reluctant to go to Turkey because the Special Malaysia Disaster Assistance and Rescue Team, known as SMART, is already there and a field hospital has been set up. However, in the spirit of friendship, I have decided to go there, he said. He added that he will be accompanied by Foreign Minister Datuk Sri Ozamri Abdul Kadir. Earlier, during the minister's question time in Dewan Rakyat, Anwar said Erdogan had called him twice asking him to go to Turkey. He also said Malaysia has successfully collected a total of 20 million ringgit in humanitarian aid to help earthquake victims in Turkey and Syria. He added the contribution included 1 million US dollar or 4.3 million ringgit each from Malaysian government and Sultan of Johor, with the remaining donation coming from various groups including Malaysian companies. He said that Malaysia has sent 2 teams from SMART, while the Armed Forces is also sending its own rescue team. He was responding to a question from Datuk Iskandar Zulkarnain Abdul Khalid, PN Kuala Kangsar. He wanted to know the form of aid provided by the Malaysian government to help victims of the earthquake of Turkey and Syria. On the cost of sending SMART teams, Anwar said the flight was successfully paid for by Turkish Airlines, with the government spending of 4 million for purpose. On separate matter, Anwar said Malaysia decided to channel aid to Syria, including medical equipment and humanitarian mission, regardless of US sanction policies. Malaysia will still send a team to help as soon as there is a response from Syria government, but funding and medical equipment have been decided, and the defense minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Hassan wants to install hospital equipment in Syria, he added. A large earthquake measured for 7.8 on the Richter scale hit the southern Turkey and northwestern Syria last Monday, and has claimed that tens of thousands of lives with tremors had felt the Cyprus and Lebanon. Last Tuesday, Turkey declared a 3-month state of emergency with 10 provinces, namely Adana, Adiyaman, Diyarbakir, Gaziantep, Hatay, Kahramanmaras, Kils, Malatya, Osmania, and Sanliurfa to ensure the search and rescue mission runs smoothly. They're basically the same news. Outpouring aid for Turkey and Syria shows Malaysian compassion, says Anwar. This is yesterday, 14 February, 6:51 p.m. From Putrajaya, the outpouring aid for the victims of the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria reflects the level of compassion and humanity that Malaysians have, says the Prime Minister. Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said that it's not just the government that had extended aid, but also the royalty, the business community, and Malaysians at large. Calamity in Turkey and Syria is one of the worst in the world history, aside from the tsunami in Aceh that occurred in 2004. He said. Anwar added that the assistance by Malaysia shows that the feeling of brotherhood goes beyond borders, race, and religion. He said this is an event to accept donations for disaster funds to be channeled to Turkey and Syria. A total of 16 corporations and business associations donated more than 250 million ringgit to the fund. I think it was a different number before. Oh well, he gave an example of how Malaysians look beyond borders and race to help, saying that the Associated Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry of Malaysia ACCIM had voiced the intention to donate even without being persuaded or prompted to do so. They volunteered to give 1 million US dollars. This is Malaysia and what she stands for. That is why I resent the idea of people making it into a parochial, communal, or religious issues. This is a humanitarian effort to extend help to our brothers and sisters in the affected countries, he said. The Prime Minister said he decided to fly to Turkey to give memorial support to its President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, just call it Erdogan, as well as the people of the country. I was reluctant to go and have already sent smart team and set up few hospitals there, but after speaking with President-elect, I can imagine how anxious and worried he is, knowing how difficult things are for the people, said Anwar. So as a friend, I believe it's good for me to personally go there to care for support, he added. So ASEAN Plus. Oh. Hmm. Hmm. Oi. Oh. This is 13 hours ago. Indonesia promises to move to clean energy, but challenges loom. From Samarinda, Indonesia, was AP. In Indonesia's region of East Kalimantan, the country's dependence on coal is on full display. Driving on the region's toll road, passerby can watch excavators digging coal from shallow pits as trucks filled with carbon-rich rocks rush by. Under a bridge in Samarinda, a region's capital, hundreds of mammoth, jet black mountains of coal sit in barrages being pulled along the waterway, headed to plants across Indonesia or other countries. There are sites that Indonesia has pledged to phase out or at least just drastically reduce by agreeing some 5 schemes with international stakeholders, including the largest signed $20 billion Just Energy Transitioning Partnership deal. While the deals aim to turn one of the largest coal-producing countries toward its vast greener energy sources, experts warn the financial policy infrastructure, and other challenges need to be overcome. Indonesia's energy transition is very unique because of high economic growth, geography, population centers, and clean energy potential, said David Elzinga, a principal energy specialist in Asian Development Bank. Despite Indonesia's energy potential from solar, hydropower, geothermal, wind, and other resources, only some 12% of them are tapped, according to International Renewable Energy Agency. Nearly all energy demand is met by fossil fuels, and 60% are coming from high polluting coal. That means people like boat maker Jembong, 55, who like many Indonesians uses only one name, can rely on solar for light bulb or or watch television. But for energy intensive power tools that he uses to handcraft boats from his home on Karampungang Island, he needs diesel. If I can't use the diesel engine, I can't work, he said. It is implicated in the it is impacted the environment. In 2021, Indonesia's energy sector emissions were around 600 million tons of carbon dioxide, the world's ninth largest according to the International Energy Agency, and population and economic growth are expected to triple the country's energy consumption by 2050. It's a challenging environment that make change while you have substantial growth, said Elzinga. It is different than developed country, which is characterized by having significant financial resources and low economic growth. Many developed economies have stronger renewable ambitions. Growth researchers say no country is currently in line with global climate goals. Indonesian officials have signaled they've started the shift. They've announced new regulations around solar, set a goal to raise the market share of electric vehicles in Indonesia's 25% of total vehicle sales by 2030. And I have deployed the charging stations. But experts warn Indonesia is lagging behind its Southeast Asian peers. Indonesia has voiced its needs of help. It needs help from more developed nations. We don't want to be limited in terms of our availability to grow economically, said Deputy Coordinating Maritime Affairs and Investment Minister Rahmat Kaimuddin. Industrialized nations can support us. With the new GETP deal, Indonesia will aim to reach net zero emissions from power sector by 2050, bringing forward its target by a decade and reach a peak in those emissions by 2030. It is increasing its target for renewable energy to make up over a third of all power generation by 2030, which would mean doubling the pace of current deployment. But financing remains an obstacle, said Alrika Hamdi, an Indonesian-based energy finance analyst at the Institute of Energy Economics and Financial Analysis. By one estimate, Indonesia will need up to $2.4 trillion in cumulative investment across the energy system by 2050, a number far larger than money currently pledged. We still have a long way to find out how we could gather up financing to do this, said Hamdi. How the money is provided, be it loans, grants, or other funding schemes, is also a concern, said Grita Anidarini, a program director at Indonesian Center for Environmental Law. We just want to make sure that these funds won't lead to a debt trap, says Anindarini. Hamdi raised concerns of how money and transition schemes could be spent. In a recent report, she critiqued a lack of disclosure on selection criteria for plants, reading for early retirement burnouts by Indonesia's state-owned electric company PLN, including some plants will be beyond economic useful life by 2055. GETP funding would be used to support the burnouts. PLN should retire them with the next couple of years and write them off, said Hamdi Rauf in the report. Another concern raised by activists is that the GETP doesn't really make clear what, if any, restrictions it will put in place regarding Indonesia built new coal plants, or whether Indonesia will be required to decrease coal exports. A 2022 residential regulation provides exemption to build previously planned coal plants, or those attached to nationally strategic projects. Coal is a valuable part of Indonesia's economy, with the country being its largest exporter by tonnage in the world. Consumers include China, India, and Japan. The war in Ukraine has caused a spike in energy costs, with the increased price likely to remain for next 2 or 3 years, said Hamdi. We can understand rationale for them wanting to develop their industries and their natural resources, said Alzinga. The responsibility of development community and those who want to support Indonesia is very much to come up with solutions that allow them to do both. In a written statement sent to the Associated Press, Darmawan Prasojo, the CEO of PLN, wrote that the company has already cancelled some coal plants in the near-term business plan and is committed to lead the energy transitions in Indonesia. The Mulyawan Mangadana, Vice Chairman of the Indonesian Mining Association, and experts raised concern over the future of communities reliant on the coal industry, which makes up 35% of East Kalimantan GDP and employs nearly 9% of its population. More than 250,000 people have directly employed by coal mining. If we calculate their families, about 1 million people have been impacted, said Magadana. But he said that reskilling workers is possible, something Hamdi agrees with. What's important will be considered as just is how transition funding will be allocated to help these impacted workers, even though upskilling, reskilling, or community development, said Hamdi. Domestic energy policy is also not up to speed in the transition, especially for solar energy, which is a key on Indonesia's pathway to net zero, noted Daniel Kurniawan, a researcher who focuses on Solar Institute for Essential Services Reform. There is a lack of solid policy making environment and political commitment for Indonesia to transition to clean energy amidst the overcapacity driven by over-reliance on coal power, he said. Although that is bound to change it with GETP. Geography presents another challenge. Indonesia is a large archipelago with significant differences in energy resources, distribution, and population centers, said Alzinga. For example, Java, the country's administrative server accounts for around 60% of the population and some 75% of electricity consumption, but only a small percent are renewable potential. While the challenges are varied, they're not insurmountable, said Hamdi. Her organization and others monitoring developments with Indonesia's energy transition. We have to watch as well how this energy transition will create a better impact and a better future for our communities, said Hamdi. There has to be on a whole a whole range of citizens. Associated Press. Sniffer dogs are key to rescue ops. This is news, Asian news. In Istanbul, a search and rescue team continue to seek out survivors among the rubble in aftermath in the earthquake in Turkey and Syria. The rescue dogs from Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand have emerged as key members of these operations. These trained canines and their keen sense of smell are able to work in tandem with the human members and rescue teams and access areas that humanitarian aid officials find difficult to reach. Their senses are especially useful in two countries where hundreds of buildings have collapsed due to 7.8 magnitude earthquake that struck last Monday, leaving more than 37,000 dead and thousands more missing so far. Malaysia's tracker dogs Dante and Frankie have been sent on the first mission abroad, less than 2 months after a high-profile search and rescue job during the landslide at Batangkali near Genting Highlands that killed 31 campers. Both Dante, a Labrador Retriever, and English Springer Sapir Frankie were put on a 11-hour flight to Istanbul before being dispatched to southern Turkey for the mission to locate casualties of the earthquake. Both will work in 12-hour shifts. On Saturday, they discovered rescued 5 family members who had been trapped under a rubble of a residential building for 6 days, bernama Spotted. A Malaysian tactical operations official said the dogs were trained to find victims alive or dead. They are accompanied by their handlers, said Unit Chief Donichak. 2 canines who received Hero Malaysia medals for following their efforts during December's landslide had been given sufficient rest before their latest deployment. The Singapore Civil Defence Force team sent 4 canines along with the 68-man Operation Lionheart contingent to the southeastern Turkish town of Kahramanmaras near the quake epicenter. The dogs, including 2 Labrador Retrievers, Frenchie and Rizzo, have been deployed to sniff out areas that could become potential rescue sites, helping the teams assess the need to use search equipment to home on victim allocations, said the CSDF on Facebook. Thailand's search and rescue team in Turkey, including 2 sniffer dogs, Sierra and Sahara, have also drawn attention on social media, according to Thai daily The Nation. The female golden retrievers on team from country's urban search and rescue team have raised awareness of the sniffer dogs' play in these missions. Photos of 7-year-old Sierra and 6-year-old Sahara have been shared widely on social media, along with outpouring concerns for those affected by the catastrophe. Both dogs have passed training certified by the International Rescue Dog Organization and have been tasked to search for earthquake victims in the rubble. The Thai team started to work on Saturday in Hatay, a southern Turkish southern Turkish province on the Mediterranean coast that borders Syria, where wintry conditions have been seen. Temperatures plunge to 2 degrees Celsius. Mexico on Monday paid tribute to its military rescue dog that died while searching for survivors buried under the rubble of earthquake in Turkey. Defense Minister Luis Crescencio Sandoval announced the death of German Shepherd called Proteo at President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador's daily news conference. You accomplished your mission. Thank you for your heroic work, the military said on Twitter. Portillo was one of the dozen rescue dogs dispatched in Mexico along with 130 military personnel on its humanitarian mission to Turkey and Syria. You were always a strong, hardworking dog who never gave up. I will always remember you. One rescuer who served alongside Portillo said in the video, The Straits Times. For the last news, Malaysia appoints new reps to UN, ASEAN. From Putrajaya, the government have appointed its top diplomat, Dato Ahmad Faisal Muhammad, as a country permanent representative to the United Nations in New York, United States. The former High Commissioner to New Zealand, Nur Izzah Wong Mi Chu, had been appointed as permanent representative to Association of United Asian Nations, ASEAN, in Jakarta, Indonesia. Foreign Affairs Ministry in statement said its minister Datuk Sri Dr. Zamri Datuk Abdul Kadir presented the letters of credentials of both ambassadors at the ministry on Tuesday, February 14. Prior to this appointment, Ahmad Faisal had served as Malaysia's permanent representative to United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland since 2019. He was also the country's ambassador to Myanmar from 2011 to 2014 and also served diplomatic missions of Malaysia in Singapore and now Moscow, Russia. Meanwhile, Nur Izzah had also served the embassy of Malaysia in Beijing, China. At Ministry of Foreign Affairs, she had served Under Secretary in Secretariat Division and was assigned to the Department of Multilateral Affairs, East and South Asia Division, Information Division and ASEAN Division from Bernama. That would be the last. Article for this live stream.